Hey everyone, welcome to the video. Let's go over the 6-game NBA slate for today on Draftkings. And yes, my voice does sound a little bit rough. I've been coughing all day and I've been having a sore throat. So voice is a little bit rough right now. So hopefully we can make it through the end of this video. And hopefully this doesn't sound too bad as you're watching. But before we continue, as always, if you guys could just leave a like. And if you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. Really helps me out. Really appreciate it. You also follow me on Twitter at Pennell16, getting close to 500 followers over on Twitter. And if you want to support me on Patreon, I do appreciate everyone that supports me on Patreon already. Like I said, if you want to support me over there, you get access to any of my extra content that I make every single night or every single week, just depending on the sport. For NBA, you get access to my entire color-coded data sheet, my DVP chart, my cheat sheet, my core plays, my projections that I update all the way up until lock. My Discord chat where you can ask me all the questions you want. And also, I've been hyping up NASCAR for quite a while, and the time has finally come. You guys are probably watching this Sunday morning or Sunday afternoon. The first race of the season starts at 3 p.m., so I have all my content out for that. I have my video that I posted last night, so I'd recommend checking that out if you do want to play NASCAR. And also, I have my article posted, my spreadsheet, my projections, all that's up already on Patreon. So if you're interested in NASCAR, check it out. That's my favorite DFS sport. I personally think that's the biggest edge in all of the, at least in the sports I played, NASCAR, because there's just a lack of information out there, and a lot of people don't really know exactly how to build NASCAR DFS lineups optimally, which I feel like I have a pretty good grip on how to play NASCAR. It's been my most profitable sport. So check it out if you haven't already, if you're interested, and if not, well, I guess it's okay too, but it'd be cool if you were. It'd be cooler if you weren't interested. But anyway, let's get into today's slate. I'm gonna try not to talk too much, which I say that, but it'll probably be a 40-minute video anyway. That's just how it goes a lot of times. But just depending on how my voice goes, we'll see. But if you see a choppy edit, it's probably because I'm coughing. So anyway, up top we have Trae Young at 10,400. He is not a must-play by any means on this slate, and he's also questionable, so I don't even know if he's going to end up playing. If he does end up missing, I got that covered later on with some cheaper guys. But assuming he plays, it sounds like he's going to play. I think it's just going to be a one-game absence. But it's a good matchup versus New York. They're actually not the worst defensive team in the world, but they do rank 24th versus point guard, so it is a pretty soft matchup individually for Trae Young. And on the season, there's just nothing bad to say about the guy. He's nearly 1.5 points per minute at 1.44, about a 35% usage rate. Guy's got 80-point upside. This is what he can do, and I really don't see anyone that can stop him on the Trailblazers for some reason, on the Knicks. So, yeah, Trae Young, I think he's a fine spend-up. Must-play. Is he a must-play? No, but I think he's fine if you're spending all the way up. I will say I'd rather play Bradley Beal. He comes at 9,900. Or I shouldn't say I'd rather. I feel like they're both close, but I like the game better for Bradley Beal because this is going to be a league game environment here. We got a 241 total with the Wizards having 120 implied team total and only a 1.5 point spread. So this is going to be the top game of the night for fantasy purposes. And Bradley Beal's run an absolute tear since returning from injury. He finally broke his 50-point streak in the last game where he only scored 48 fantasy points. But still, I mean, when 48 fantasy points is the worst game you've had in over a week, you're doing some things right. And Bradley Beal, I think the good times continue here versus Memphis. He should be able to get you over 50-plus points. I know he's expensive at 10K. People just don't really like playing Bradley Beal at 10K, which I totally get. It's tough. It's a tough pill to swallow, to be honest, because he doesn't feel like a 10K player. But, I mean, you got to love the game environment here. It's only a 6-game slate, so he's going to play all the minutes he can handle. Going up against Memphis, one of the worst defensive teams in the league. Both teams are both top 10 in pace of play. Washington is 7th. Memphis is 8th. On the season, Beal's got a 33.3% usage rate, 1.31 points per minute. If we head over to the DVP chart, Memphis is 25th versus shooting guards and 25th versus small forwards. So it's an elite matchup all around for Bradley Beal, and I think he's a very fine option to spend up on. I might make him the cover picture of this video. Not sure yet. Either him or Paul George, probably. But skipping down one, we have Ben Simmons. He comes in at 8,600, so a little bit of a price dump off there. But I would only have interest in him if Joel Embiid happens to miss this game. He did miss the second half of the last game, which was unfortunate because I played Joel Embiid. He was smashing at about 33 points, 8,500 in the first half. And then for some reason, he didn't come back out because of neck stiffness. That's just how it goes. You call him soft, whatever you want to call him. But he's really cheap at 8,200. This is just, the price tag's a joke. Like if you're telling me Joel Embiid's going to get 30-plus minutes versus Chicago at 8,200, that's just of a joke or a price. He'd be an absolute lock button play. Now, the problem is, I don't know if he's going to play, and I mean, that's really the only problem, actually, I should say, is just if he's going to play or not. If he plays, I mean, he's good to go. 8,200. I mean, I would consider Joel Embiid at like 9,800 versus Chicago. 8,200 is just, I mean, he's a lock button play if he's good to go. And they're just so bad down low. If we head over to the DVP chart, they rank 29th versus centers, 30th versus power forwards. It just goes to show you how bad they are down low. And they're missing a lot of bodies as well. You know, Wendell Carter's hurt, Larry Markkanen's hurt. There's really no one that can guard them down low. So, you know, Luke Cornett's going to be down there, Felicio, Thad Young, so they're not going to be able to contend with Joel Embiid. He should be able to body them up, and the guy's matchup proof anyway, but if you give him an elite matchup like Chicago, he should be able to absolutely feast on the season. Elite numbers, 1.5 points per minute, 31.8% usage rate. Not a guy that's going to play a ton of minutes. I only got him for 31 here, averaging 30 minutes per game. We've seen him sometimes, you know, play about 35 minutes, but that's more of an outlier than what you'd expect. So I got him for about 31 minutes here. If he can get 30 minutes at 8,200 for Chicago, 1.5 points per minute, he should smash. So definitely have some interest in Embiid. Paul George is a back-to-back for Kawhi Leonard, so we have to only assume that he's going to miss this game. And if that's the case, 8,100 for George versus a bad Cleveland defense just makes all the sense in the world. Should get about 30 minutes, if not more. I know he hasn't played many minutes since returning from the injury, but if Kawhi's out, he's going to have to shoulder the load here. And I believe he played 31 minutes in the one game. I forget exactly who it was against, but he did play 31 minutes, so he's capable of doing it. And Cleveland are the second worst defensive team in the league. They're ranked 29th versus small forwards, 18th versus power forwards. So this is an elite matchup here for Paul George on the season. George is at 1.34 points per minute with a 30% usage rate. If you take Kawhi off the court, he's at 1.56 points per minute with a 35% usage rate. So a 1.56 points per minute would be the highest in this player pool. So you'd have to have interest at 8,100. I think he's an absolute smash play at this price tag. Hassan Whiteside, he missed the last game with, I believe it was a... 1 second. Sorry, a little cough attack there, but Hassan Whiteside, he missed the last game, but now he's listed as probable, so he's going to be good to go. Got an extra day of rest. And the matchup versus Miami is not great. They're one of the better defensive teams in the league, especially versus big men. They rank 8th versus centers, but Hassan Whiteside absolutely smashed the Spurs, who rank 9th versus centers. I know Bam Adebayo is a very good defender, but you know Hassan Whiteside is just so good on a point per minute basis. I mean, at 1.34 points per minute. I mean, only at 7,600. I mean, I know the matchup's not great, and the pace of play for this game is not great either. But I mean, Hassan Whiteside, if he's going to get about 35 minutes at 7,600, he's going to pay off his price tag despite the matchup. So certainly got to have interest in Whiteside. I'm a big fan of playing Whiteside. I'm a big fan of his. He's a great fantasy option most nights. Elfrid Payton, he's getting really, really expensive, but the guy just continues to have good game after good game. He had like a 60-point game versus Cleveland. Gets a really good matchup here versus Atlanta, the worst defensive team in the entire league. Also a big pace-up spot for the Knicks, as they are 19th in pace of play, and Atlanta is 5th. And if you look at the DVP chart, Atlanta ranks 19th versus point guards, 29th versus shooting guards. So they're just a terrible defense in all aspects. And lost them for a second. Yeah, on the season, Peyton's above a point per minute, 1.06 points per minute, and I expect him to get over 30 minutes in this game. So Elfrid Payton, certainly on my radar. Wouldn't play him in cash games just because of his price increase, but I think he's fine in GPPs considering his upside. And he's a triple-double threat. He can do a little bit of everything. Not a huge scorer, but you know, he gets the rebounds, the assists, steals, blocks, whatever. So Elfrid Payton, I think he's fine in GPPs. Donovan Mitchell, I like him in all formats. 7,300 just seems a bit too cheap. I know he hasn't had a great game in a while, but he's going to play all the minutes he can handle. I like this game environment for the Jazz. Nice pace-up spot here for, versus Houston as their third in pace of play, and the Jazz are 26. So you get a massive pace-up spot, 23-spot difference on the season. He's got a 31.1% usage rate, 1.12 points per minute. I will say Mike Conley's kind of cutting into his production, which I guess could be a little bit of a concern, but you know, 7,300 for a guy like Mitchell with his kind of upside, I certainly think he's pretty interesting. And also, Houston's very bad defensively. Head over to the DVP chart, they're ranked 28th versus shooting guard, so I do like the spot for Donovan Mitchell quite a bit. Jonas Valanciunas, he's the ultimate GPP play. I say that every single time. His minutes can be pretty sporadic. That isn't really usually top 30. I believe he's only averaging 25 minutes per game on the season, but when he's playing well, he's got 60-point upside. We've seen him multiple times this season, and you know, matchup versus Washington, I could certainly see it. I mean, 241 total, definitely want exposure to this game, only a 1.5-point spread. Both teams play fast. Memphis is 8th in pace of play. Washington is 7th, so I like the pace of this game quite a bit. And on the year, I mean, he's great on a point per minute basis, 1.29 points per minute, which is very, very good at this price tag. So Valanciunas, you can certainly look his way. Washington does rank 28th versus center, so very good matchup. All right, so moving on here. So yeah, Valanciunas, I think he's fine in GPPs. Probably won't play him in cash games, but do like him in GPPs. Tobias Harris, so this is only if Joel Embiid happens to miss because he is listed as questionable. We don't know if he's going to play, but if he happens to miss, Tobias Harris, he's a pretty sizable boost. He would be at 1.14 points per minute with a 25% usage rate, which does lead the team. We know the guy's got plenty of upside. This is also an elite matchup versus Chicago as a forward, especially as a power forward. They just absolutely suck versus that position, which, small forward, power forward, whatever you want to call them. But, on the season, 1.02 points per minute, so he does get a boost all the way up to 1.14, which I just mentioned, and a 26% usage rate. So, I think he's a fine option. Chicago's a pretty bad defensive team. Besides guards, they're very good versus guards, but versus forwards and centers, they're pretty trashy. So you can certainly look to Tobias Harris's way. Certainly has plenty of upside. So moving on to Lou Williams, he's another guy that would see a big increase with Kawhi Leonard missing this game. Also comes in at a fair price tag at $6,800, and he's going to play close to about 30 minutes here. Given the fact that Kawhi Leonard should be out, I think I might have Kawhi Leonard projected as in right now. So if I had to take him out, I'd probably get Lou Williams to close to 30 minutes, if not a little bit more. And with Kawhi Leonard being off the court for Lou, he's got a 32.6% usage rate. It's at 1.24 points per minute. That's pretty darn good at this price tag at $6,800. Also get the elite matchup as a guard versus Cleveland. They're an absolute dumpster fire versus guards. They rank 30th versus point guards, 30th versus shooting guards. Literally the best matchup you could ask for Lou Williams. So certainly like Lou, the guy's got plenty of upside. And on the season, he's been at 1.1 points per minute. So that goes all the way up to 1.24, and the usage rate also goes up to 32.6% compared to 28.8%. So you got to have some interest in Lou Williams for sure. Marcus Morris, so he just recently got traded to the Clippers, so I'm not totally sure what his numbers are going to look like. If you just look at his numbers from the Knicks, he was at 0.97 points per minute with averaging 32 minutes per game, 24% usage rate. Wow. Now, if Kawhi was playing, I'd have no interest, but with Kawhi out, I would assume Marcus Morris is going to play in this game, and he should see mid-30s minutes, and I'd have to assume he'd play pretty well. I'd say we could probably get him close to about a point per minute, maybe even more. Again, not totally sure how they're going to end up using him, but I still think he'd be a fine option at this price tag at $6,400, especially in an elite matchup versus Cleveland, their second worst defensive team in the league. So Marcus Morris, I think he's certainly on the radar. Just if we can get some confirmation on his minutes, that'd be nice. John Morant, so I know he hasn't been playing that well, but $6,300, his price is really creeping down, and I certainly have interest in an elite spot here versus the Wizards. I mean, this game environment is just elite. 241 total, 121 implied team total, 1.5 point spread. And on the season, he's at 1.13 points per minute, 26% usage rate. If you're at 1.13 points per minute, you're going to give me about 30 minutes. I'll take it versus the Wizards. I mean, they rank, 26 or 27 versus point guard. So, yeah, I love the spot for John Morant. The guy's got plenty of upside. I think he's fine in all formats. Montrezl Harrell, 6,200, same thing as Lou Williams and Paul George. They all get big boost with Kawhi Leonard being off the court. Harrell would be at 29.8% usage rate, 1.22 points per minute. Good spot versus Cleveland. Now, they did just trade for Andre Drummond, but he really has not been that great of a defender this season. If you look at the Pistons rank 25th versus center, so you could probably kind of carry that over to Cleveland. I mean, Tristan Thompson, Kevin Love, and Andre Drummond are not the greatest defenders in the world, so it's a pretty good spot here for Harrell, and as long as this game stays close, he should be able to smash that 6,200 price tag, so definitely have interest in Harrell. He'd probably play close to about 30 minutes. Bojan, he's fine. He comes in at 6K. I mean, he had a fine game last time he played Houston. I believe he scored about 36 points. Most of that was just from points alone. I think he had 30 real-life points. But I'm glad I have interest in him because it's a nice, I was going to say pace-up. I mean, it's a pace-up spot, but it's a nice boosting game environment for the Jazz, as they typically play pretty slow, 26th in pace of play. Houston is 3rd in pace of play. And on the season, 0.93 points per minute with a 26% usage rate. If we head over to the DVP chart, Houston is 26 versus small forwards, 20 versus shooting guards. Now, I will say the addition of Robert Covington, he's a pretty solid defender, so that might make them a little bit better versus forwards, but I still think it's a pretty fine matchup for Bojan. Certainly look his way. Goran Dragic, Jimmy Butler's going to miss this game, so we can expect him to get close to 30 minutes here. Comes in at 5,900, gets a really good spot versus Portland. Last time that Butler missed and Dragic played Portland, I actually ended up playing Dragic Now, I believe he was a little bit cheaper than 5,900, but he ended up having that 56 point game. Not really points, but fantasy point game, which is by far his best of the season. I'm not saying he's going to do that again, but I just have a good memory of playing Dragic versus Portland, so I thought I'd bring that up. But they're one of the worst defensive teams in the league. I believe Dragic came off the bench in the last game with Butler missing, but he played fine. He didn't great, but he played fine. But yeah, Portland, they ranked 26 versus point guards, so I think Dragic's fine. He's over a point per minute if you take Butler off the court, so certainly gets a boost there. I think on the season by himself, he's at 1.02 points per minute, so that gets closer to 1.1 points per minute. So yeah, Dragic, I think he's a fine play. Jaren Jackson, he can be pretty hit or miss, kind of like Valanciunas, but 5,800, I'll take it. I mean, he's going to get close to 30 minutes here, if not more. Love the game environment here. Definitely want pieces of this game. Jaren Jackson, he should be able to pay off his price tag 5,800. We know the guy's got plenty of upside. I mention it every single time I talk about him, but I'll never forget that game. I think he had 9 threes. He just kept blazing threes. That's just the kind of upside Jaren Jackson has. Now, he also has downside as well. He also can get into foul trouble, but the price kind of bakes that in. So 5,800 is not a bad price tag for Jaren Jackson. Going to be a fast-paced game. High total, already talked about that. On the season, 1.09 points per minute, only averaging 20 minutes per game, but pretty good on a point per minute basis, 24% usage rate. I think he's pretty solid. Al Horford, he's questionable for this game. If Embiid misses, this is where I'll have interest. I mean, he's fine even if Embiid plays just because of the price tag, but if Embiid misses, I would assume they're going to push for Horford to play because also Kyle Quinn's out, so they really won't have a center besides the guy that starts with a P. Is it Pebble, something like that. Not really too important of a guy. I guess he'd become in play if Horford and Embiid misses. But let's just say Embiid misses. Horford would become a smash spot at 5,700 versus Chicago. Horford's at 1.13 points per minute with Embiid off the court. And like I said, Chicago is one of the worst defensive teams in the league versus big men. And they rank 30th versus power forwards, 29th versus center. So you'd certainly have to have some interest in Al Horford. Kendrick Nunn, he's going to play minutes in the mid-30s with Jimmy Butler missing 5,600. They did rise his price quite a bit, but he had the better game than Goran Dragic in the last time out. And it's a good matchup versus Portland. They rank, 26? Yeah, 26 versus point guards, 14 versus shooting guards, so we can certainly look Kendrick Nunn's way over a point per minute with Jimmy Butler off the court. Davis Bertans, the guy's got GBP appeal just because he's so good from deep, and this is a perfect game environment for a guy that likes to chuck threes all game. I mean, he'll take double-digit 3-point attempts. He has no problem with that. Also, would never surprise me if he hit double-digit threes. I mean, I know it's pushing it, but the guy's just so good from deep. I mean, he'll just pull it from the logo and drain it with the guy in his face. I mean, he's just so good from deep. And on the year, he's at 0.95 points per minute. Only got him for about 31 minutes here, which is actually not that bad at 5,500. And the elite game environment here, 241 total. A lot of points are going to be scored. I think Davis Bertans can be a big part of that. Mike Conley, so he's been cutting into Donovan Mitchell's fantasy point production lately, but he's been playing pretty well. I remember Mike Conley was about 3,400 about a week ago, if not maybe 2 weeks ago. I actually ended up playing him, did not do that great, but ever since then, the guy's been on an absolute tear. Love the spot versus Houston. They rank 22nd versus point guard, so it's an elite spot for him. And should get about 30 minutes here on the season. He's got 0.9 points per minute, 23.6% usage rate. He's been playing really well recently. So I think Mike Conley's fine. Don't love paying 5,400 for him, but I do like his recent form. Duncan Robinson, he played 42 minutes in the last game, and that's without overtime. He had a pretty good game. He should play about 35 minutes here. And if you take Jimmy Butler off the court, his numbers go up. He's only at 0.74 points per minute in the season, which is not great. 15% usage rate, but those numbers do go up with Jimmy Butler off the court. So we could look his way at 5,200. Don't love it, but it's a good spot versus Portland. A bit of a pace-up spot. Satoransky. So Zach LaVine is questionable for this game, and if he happened to miss, he missed practice Saturday, they're going to be down some bodies. So someone's got to step up, and if you take Zach LaVine off the court, Sato's at 1.24 points per minute. The usage rate's still not that high, but 1.24 points per minute is not too bad at all with this price tag. So we're going to have to keep an eye on the LaVine news if we do want to end up playing Satoransky. Matchup versus Philly is pretty rough. They're one of the best defensive teams in the league. They rank 4th versus point guards. They're actually the number 1 defensive team for fantasy points given up. So, very stiff matchup for the Bulls. But, if they're going to be missing that many bodies, someone's got to score in that team. So we could look Satoransky's way. Not in love with it, but he's certainly on our radar. So Melo's up next, and I will say he's been very hit or miss lately. He had that nice 38-point game the game before the last game. Then the next game, he was absolutely terrible. I think he had I think he had 0.5 points heading into the second half. Ended up finishing the game with, like 12? But he's been in very bad form. But he's going to play mid-30s minutes. And 4,900, it's just getting to the point where I might just bite the bullet and take him below 5K. I mean, it's just getting a little bit too cheap for a guy with Carmelo's upside. He's got 30-point upside here. He actually had 40-point upside, to be honest. Don't have the spot here versus the Miami Heat, but with Jimmy Butler being off the court, they do take a hit defensively because he's their best defensive player, him and Bam Adebayo. But on the season, 0.86 points per minute. I mean, it's just not too bad. A guy at 4,900. I don't want to talk about him too much. He's kind of just a last piece kind of guy. Like if I have 5K left, I have no problem filling that in with Carmelo Anthony. Dylan Brooks, I only like him in games that are going to be fast-paced and have high totals because the guy can shoot the ball quite a bit, and the guy does have upside. Well, we're going to get that here. We have Memphis versus Washington, 241 total. Both teams are top 10 in pace of play. I've already went over that 12 times. You guys get the idea. On the season, 0.93 points per minute. Doesn't play a lot of minutes. Well, he's only averaging 20 minutes per game, but he should see about 30, if not a little bit more. 24% usage rate. Love the spot here versus Washington. They rank 24th versus shooting guards, 20th versus small forwards, and I know Dylan Brooks just inked that new extension, so he's playing a little bit happy. So Dylan Brooks, like him quite a bit. Or he might not play good because he was out celebrating. I don't know. Either way, but Dylan Brooks, I do like him. Jeff Teague, he'd be coming in play if Trae Young happened to miss. I expect Trae Young to play, but I also expect him to play in the last game, and that just didn't happen. So Jeff Teague, he'd play close to 30 minutes here, if not a little bit more. 4,700, not a bad price tag versus New York. I already went over it, but they do rank 24th versus point guard, so it would be a good individual matchup. So Jeff Teague would certainly be on your radar, over a point per minute with Trae Young off the court. Chandler Hutchinson, I believe he's listed as probable. I know he's got the questionable tag, but I'm pretty sure he's probable, and he actually ended up having a really good game last time out. And if Zach LaVine's out, I mean, there's just not a lot of bodies here for Chicago, so he'd be forced into big minutes. He'd probably play about 30, if not more, and closer to a point per minute if you take LaVine off the court. I don't know if I had that one written down, but I do not. But yeah, I mean, Hutchinson, I think he'd be a pretty strong play. And now it's not a great matchup versus Philly, but they'll take a hit defensively if Embiid does happen to miss. Kobe White, I just realized I have him listed here twice, so we're not gonna talk about him twice. So I'll just make the video a little bit shorter. But if you take LaVine off the court and all the other guys for the Bulls that could potentially miss, White's got a 27.1% usage rate and 1.03 points per minute. He crushed in the last game alongside LaVine. And if you take LaVine off, I mean, this offense, I mean, there's going to be a lot of volume for Kobe White. He's going to be handling the ball about a 30% usage rate. So you'd have to have interest. Now, again, this is not a good matchup versus Philly, but sometimes you got to say screw the matchup and just just try to realize that players need to score for their team, and someone's got to do it. And if LaVine's gone, I mean, they're just missing so many guys. Like Kobe White, I think he's capable, so I wouldn't mind using him despite the bad matchup. Joe Ingles, so he kind of broke out of his slump in the last game, had a pretty solid game versus, who was that against? Utah just played, they just played Portland. So they're playing Houston. A nice pace-up spot for the Jazz. I already went over that a couple of times, but they're 26th in pace of play. Houston is 3rd, so I do like that. On the season, he's at 0.84 points per minute, which is nothing too exciting, but I think he can get you about 25 points here, and you'll take that at 4,500. I don't think he's a terrible play. Jordan Clarkson, same thing as Ingles, but the guy's got more upside than Ingles on most nights. And on the season, he's at 0.96 points per minute, 25% usage rate. It's not really going to play as many minutes as Joe Ingles, but he's more efficient while he's on the court. So I think they're both fine plays. I'd probably have to lean with Jordan Clarkson over Ingles just because I like his upside a little bit more. Jay Crowder, so he got traded to Miami. We're not actually sure if he's going to end up playing or not. If he does play and he's full go, he should get about 25 minutes, maybe a little bit more. Not totally sure, but 3,900 is just a little bit too cheap. It's a good matchup versus Portland. They're one of the worst defensive teams in the league. They rank 19th versus small forwards, 26th versus power forwards. We know Melo's not a good defender. So Jay Crowder, I wouldn't hate the idea of using him, especially with Jimmy Butler being off the court. Because that would just open up some more minutes for everyone in the rotation. Now, again, I'm not sure if he's going to end up playing. He might just be listed as a DNP and not play in this game. Not totally sure, but again, it's 1 a.m. the night prior, so I'm trying to do my best here to guess. Kelly Olynyk, he didn't do great in the last game, only scored 14 points, but he'll be pushed into minutes with Jimmy Butler off the court and Tyler Hero. So I got him for about 24 as of right now, which isn't too bad. On the season is at 0.88 points per minute. That goes up a little bit with Jimmy Butler being off the court, close to a 1 point per minute. I think he's going to get you over 20 fantasy points. So Kelly Olynyk, I don't mind it. Really good matchup versus Portland, one of the worst defensive teams in the league. Brandon Goodwin, so he ended up having a really good game last time out with Trae Young out. Believe he scored, was it 30 points? Might have been a little bit more, but he had a very, very good game at absolute min price versus Boston. Started out a little bit slow, but he got hot later on. If Trae Young's out, I'd get about 25 minutes, maybe get close to 30, but probably about 25 minutes if Trae Young misses. But that's still fine because with Trae Young's off the court, Brandon Goodwin's got over a 20% usage rate, and he's over a point per minute, and it's a good matchup versus New York as a point guard. So certainly have interest in Brandon Goodwin if Trae Young happens to miss. And Josh Jackson, I just threw him on here because he's min price. I got him for about 20 minutes. He had a good game recently. I think he scored 20 points. I believe he scored 13 points in the last time out, but he's really cheap. Should get about 20 minutes. A league game environment versus Washington, one of the worst defensive teams in the league. So you can certainly look his way. On the season, the numbers aren't too impressive, 0.79 points per minute, but 21% usage rate's not bad. But should get close to 20 minutes here. I think he's fine at 3K, just given the game environment. And thankfully, that's going to be the end of this player pool rundown. I'm sorry if it sounded like I was just a little bit not as interested in this slate. It's just, I am. It's just, throat doesn't feel very well, so I'm just trying to battle not coughing in front of you guys. But before we get out of here, I want to talk about overlaydfs.com really quick. All right, guys, so before we get out of here, I do want to talk about a sponsor of the show, overlaydfs.com, a new, very fun DFS website to play on. It's more based to the casual player. You don't have to worry about sharks playing on here. You don't have to worry about Chipotle or EM2 or any of those kind of guys. There's no salary cap restrictions. It's more of a laid-back DFS website to have fun on and sweat the games out. Very fun. You're always in it till the last game ends. And I really do enjoy it. I would not recommend it to you guys if I didn't play it there myself. And it's as easy as it's about to sound. It's just a pick-em-based website. Here, everything scores the most points, you pick. So this was quite a few nights ago, but if you thought Hassan Whiteside was going to outscore Clint Capella, you picked Whiteside. If you thought Sabonis was going to outscore Rudy Gobert, you picked Sabonis, etc. You guys get the idea. It's just as simple as that. And if the guy happens to win that matchup, you win that matchup and you get a 1-0 record to start. And then, as you can see, this night I went 6-6. It was not one of my best nights. I don't remember which night this was. I just picked a random one, but yeah, I mean, it's a very fun website, and if you happen to go 12-0 in your picks, you can win a progressive jackpot of over $9,500. It's due to hit at some point. When they reached out to me, it was around 4K, so this has just been building. Someone's due to hit soon, and it's a legit website. They will pay you out, and they paid me out quick before. I'm talking within hours of the slate ending. It's been in my bank account, not just my account balance, my bank account, very, very soon. And if you finish in the top 10% of the contest, this is how you get paid out. You win 9x your money. So just for example, if you finished in the top 6 in this contest, you win 9x your money, which is the $22 double deuce contest. You'd win $180. It's as simple as that. I really like their payout structure, and it's a very, very fun website to play on. Also running a slump buster challenge where if you lose 20 days in a row, not just 20 consecutive days, but like say you play once a week for 20 weeks in a row, that's 20 days. That's 20 days. If you lose in a row, they will refund every single dollar that you deposited. So they're basically daring you guys to lose. So check it out, guys. Overlaydfs.com. No link in the description below. No promo code. You don't have to tell them when I sent you. Just go over there, sign up, and start having fun. You guys can play against me in the contest. You'll see me in there. So check it out, guys. Overlaydfs.com. Now I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to rest my voice. Unfortunately, I don't have to make any more videos tomorrow. Or I guess late at night. So I'm going to get some cough drops, some NyQuil, hopefully feel better for the next day. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Remember to check out the Patreon content if you want access to my NBA spreadsheets or my NASCAR content. Follow me on Twitter, and I'm out. Enjoy your Sunday.